As you can see, well, I don't know, Franziska, do you want to talk about the recording?
This meeting is being recorded and archived by the city and will be posted to the Central Beaverton NAC Central Beaverton NAC webpage a few days after this meeting.
Excellent. Thank you, Franziska. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tom Drain. I'm the current chair of the Central Beaverton Neighborhood Association Committee. I'm going to read a quick preamble, and then we'll go around and do some introductions and then get things rolling with our agenda items. So the purpose of the Central Beaverton Neighborhood Association Committee is to act in an advisory role to the council and administration of the city of Beaverton on matters of importance to the Central Beaverton Neighborhood Association Committee or the city, and to provide a forum for the involvement and participation of the greatest number of citizens. There are no dues or fees for NAC membership, and anyone who lives, works, owns property, or represents a nonprofit within the NAC border is a member already. The CBNAC, their activities are civic and educational, and some of its goals are to bring about the maximum exposure of ideas and plans that are formulated for Central Beaverton, such as development proposals or other land use issues, and to provide opportunities for input to the city through such avenues as the mayor, city council, city commissions, and staff of the city of Beaverton. The city of Beaverton has a matching grant program that we utilize to fund some of our community activities, and those activities can spring forth from the NAC itself or from the greater community. If you have an agenda item that you would like to have added to our next meeting, or if you have any questions about the NAC or have an idea for a community event or project idea, please see me after the adjournment of the meeting. I'm going to go ahead and add my email to the chat here in just a moment. And I encourage you to send me a quick email during the meeting with your name and contact information so that I can follow up with you. Additionally, your email will be used to send send periodic updates on the NAC and upcoming events in our neighborhood. So I'm going to go ahead and add that in the chat. And while we go ahead and I will kind of call out people so that we get everybody through to for introductions. And while you're introducing yourself, ballots are out. Why don't you just let us know if you voted or if you're waiting for more information? And we'll go ahead and get started maybe with the board members. And if board members, you could introduce yourself as a board member or whatever office you might hold. And let's start with Amanda Clark.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Clark. I'm the recorder for the Central Beaverton NAC and also the Community Engagement Manager for Beaverton Civic Theater. I just received my ballot, so I haven't had a chance to dive into it and actually fill it out and make decisions yet.
Fantastic. Thank you, Amanda. And let's go to Quinn Simpson.
Hey everyone, I'm Quinn Simpson. I'm treasurer of the NAC and a board member, and I have my ballots sitting in the kitchen and I'm looking forward to filling it out.
Fantastic. And let's go with John Duggar.
Hello, John Duggar, vice chair here. Also, my ballot is sitting on the countertop, so I will get to that probably tomorrow. Because if you don't, for those of you who haven't run to our office, they get reports and they know if you voted, and they will leave you alone if you do it quicker. So I promise, make their life easier.
Fantastic. Rachel Phillip.
Hey everyone, I'm a board member and I have not voted yet, but now I was thinking I would do it this weekend, but now that I know that it's tracked, maybe I'll get it done tomorrow instead.
Excellent. Kevin Teeter.
Hey, I'm Kevin. I am the executive director of the Beaverton Downtown Association, and I am no longer a downtown Beaverton resident. And I found myself in a little bit of a pickle with voter registration, where since I moved, I forgot to update my address. So I'm in the process of doing that. It looks like I can get them to mail me a ballot. So as much as I've been telling people to register to vote and to vote in the election, I'm struggling to do it myself, but I'm gonna get it.
Good reminder for everybody. Thank you, Kevin. Kinsey Johnson.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kinsey. I am also a board member and Central Beaverton resident. And I unfortunately did not think this through, and I am in Maryland right now. So I'm going to have to figure out how to get them to mail it to me because it is definitely, I get notifications when mail comes through, and I got the picture of it on my kitchen counter from my neighbor. So I'm going to have to figure that one out. But yeah.
Right on. Jonathan Todd-Kourlas.
Hello, I'm Jonathan, board member and the BCCI rep for Central Beaverton. And I just got my ballot out of the mailbox yesterday, so that is on my agenda to do.
Awesome. I'll go ahead and finish up with the panelists, and then we'll get to our attendees. Franziska Rose.
Hey everyone, I'm Franziska Rose. I'm the Public Involvement Coordinator for the City of Beaverton and the staff liaison to this lovely NAC. And much like everyone else, my ballot is on my countertop, so getting to it.
Excellent. And I meant to add, if you're a panelist this evening, why don't you introduce yourself and why you're here tonight? So Jerome.
Yeah, I'm Jerome. I'm a candidate for Beaverton City Council. I'll introduce myself a little more later on. And I am working on my ballot. So it's a work in progress.
Very good. Kate Kristiansen.
Hi, I'm Kate Kristiansen. I'm the Executive Director of Pride Beaverton. I am a Sexton Mountain resident, and I have a new voter this round in my household. My daughter just turned 18, so we're going through the ballots together, and she's getting to vote her own mind and stuff, but we're going through and learning how to vote. So it is not only, the civic duty, but it's really exciting to have another voter in the house.
Excellent. Holly Thompson.
Hi, everybody. I confess I am making dinner and participating in the meeting. So if you hear something, I apologize. I'm from THPRD. I'm covering for Lulú tonight, who's very sorry to miss, but she took a much deserved day off. And like everyone else, got my ballot and it's in my mail pile, and I will do it, I promise.
Excellent. Welcome back, Holly. It's always nice to see you. Ashley Hartmeier-Prigg.
Thanks, Tom. Hi, everyone. My name is Ashley Hartmeyer-Prigg. I am also a candidate for Beaverton City Council Seat 1. My ballot is ready to get back in the mail.
Great. Officer Sutton.
There we go. Hey, Brad Sutton. I'm an officer with the Beaverton Police Department. I am your Central Beaverton NAC officer. And I laughed because I'm just like John and Quinn. Mine is on my kitchen counter as well. I just got it the other day too.
Hey, as long as people know where they are. Excellent. And then we'll go ahead and I'm going to let all of our panelists, our attendees talk. If you are calling in, you may need to hit *6 on your phone to unmute yourself. So you can talk, but you still might need to unmute yourself. So we'll start with Frances Miller.
Hello, do you hear me?
Of course. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks for including me. I mailed my ballot already. So, and I'm just follow the NAC every month in their Zoom meetings.
Frances, do you have any guests with you this evening?
No guests today. I
Oh,
tried.
well, maybe not.
Trying.
You can always rope somebody in on it. Well, we're still meeting.
Well, somebody, yeah, if I run out in the hall, maybe.
Fantastic. Thank you, Frances. Jolene Gupta.
Hi, yes. My name's Jolene, and I'm sorry to say my ballot hasn't even been opened yet. I'm one of those voters.
They just can't.
Last minute.
You'll get more information about candidates this evening. That's what's great. And finally, Melissa Hayden. And you may need to unmute if you're trying to talk, Melissa. But otherwise, if you would.
She says in chat that she doesn't have either a mic or a camera. This is her first meeting, but she mailed her ballot today.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for the chat transcript, Kate. And thank you, Melissa, for attending. Welcome. My wife and I still have our ballots. They came late last week. My wife's family has a tradition. We're going to see if we can continue it this year or not, depending on COVID, with a little get together at Dairy Queen and a session of something called Ballots and Blizzards. So it's one of the benefits of being a Oregon vote by mail voter. You can vote however you want. even with ice cream. So with that in mind, we'll go ahead and just roll into our first agenda item, and that is the Beaverton Police Department report.
All right, thank you, sir. Like I said, my name's Officer Sutton with Beaverton Police. Been working here since 2006. I've been with the NAC, I think, coming up on a year and a half-ish now. Anyways, a couple of things I was going to bring up on tonight's meeting specifically. There's been an uptick in catalytic converter thefts. Again, this is something that's happened many years ago, about approximately 10 years ago, and it's back up again. I really don't know why. But what thieves are doing is they're crawling underneath vehicles and they're taking tools and cutting out the catalytic converters. Due to the precious metals that are inside those, they're able to get quite a bit of money for those. I don't really know where they're taking them to, but I can imagine that the folks that are cracking those open and getting the metals out are all not reputable businesses themselves either. So unfortunately, the cars that get hit a lot on those are things like Toyota Priuses, which there's a lot of out there due to the metals that they use for those type of hybrid vehicles. But it's not exclusive to those. I've seen all makes and models, and even some of those lifted box trucks, like a delivery truck, those get them stolen out of them as well. Commercial burglaries are on an uptick as well. Most recently, someone was able to gain entry to the food cartel on Milliken and Rose BG. I'm not sure what was stolen, but that was one of the most recent burglaries commercial-wise that I'd heard of. So that's something just to keep an eye out for in the area, not really in the neighborhoods, but definitely the car break-ins and the catalytic converter thefts are up right now. Not really sure exactly why. It's something I noticed in the last month. Speaking of the month of May, I just recently learned it's Mental Health Awareness Month. And I do mention working with the Washington County Mental Health Response Team and the crisis team that works with the Hawthorne Center and LifeWorks. I work with them quite a bit. I think they're very valuable resources for us to use out in the field. So I always give them a shout out because I like working with those folks. And because of such, I called the Hawthorne Center today to see if they were open for walk-in business, and they are. They have been for a while. I wasn't sure if things had changed. But the Hawthorne Center is a walk-in mental health clinic. It's located in Hillsborough near the Costco, if you know where that part of town is. And they are open for any walk-in, no appointment necessary, between 9 and 6 on weekdays and noon and 4 on Saturday and Sunday. So there's a lot of good resources out there where people can utilize things without having to call the police to get hooked up with those. And I always want to make sure that people know what we have available to them if they need those things. Any questions? Anything going on in the neighborhood you guys maybe have more questions about? I can see if I can find out for you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
I was noticing in the Paplin newspaper that comes out Thursdays that the Beaverton police reports are rarely in there. It's only Hillsborough, Forest Grove, or one of those all the other police departments seem to be included in that. And I understand it's has to do with the timing of the report being sent to the newspaper?
That's a very good question. I didn't know that there was a delay or Beaverton just wasn't responding to those at all. We have a public information officer, so that's something that they would be giving out to the paper. However, the paper has to request it. I'm assuming they are if they're getting other agencies. So that's something into and just ask our PIO. Next time I see him, his name's Officer Henderson. Next time I see him, I can ask him if there's a problem with getting that information to Pamplin or if they're just not asking for it.
That would be great. And
Yes.
one of our Beaverton Lodge residents, to change the subject, had this catalytic converter stolen last week.
Yeah, it's really frustrating. I've heard those run between $2,000 and $4,000 depending on the make and model of the car. Insurance usually covers it. It's still a burden for the car owner to bear and something that's just unpleasant.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Appreciate it.
Officer Sutton, I have a question as well. It's
Yeah.
also related to public information.
Mm-hmm.
I am interested in learning how many reported vehicle accidents there have been in Beaverton city limits. Do you know if there's a place where I can find that out?
Wow. There's a place I could probably find out and get back to you. I don't know if that's something we're going to report on a public website. It's not necessarily private information, and it's a very good question. I could look into that for you if you like.
Okay. Yeah, I would be really curious to know like the total number, but then also if it's separated by like vulnerable road users, like how many bicyclists or pedestrians are hurt or killed in Beaverton city limits. I'd be really interested in seeing that too.
Yeah, absolutely. So fatalities are pretty rare, but it's not rare to have a vehicle versus a bicyclist or a vehicle versus pedestrian. Those crashes unfortunately happen, a good handful every month easily.
Yeah. Okay, I was asking for my own personal interest, but it looks like there are a couple people who are also interested in the chat. So if you could look into that and email Tom or me, and we can share it with the group, that'd be really interesting, I think.
Do you want to shoot me your email real quick, or send me an email? I can reply to it.
Yeah.
I was going to say also, Officer Sutton, my email is in the chat already. The kind of the first entry, if you can see it.
I'll try to find it from the screen I have now, but I'll try and find it.
All right, I can also send it to you.
That'd be great. Thank you, Tom.
No worries. And then you can have it anyway. Actually, real quick question, kind of just, you may not know the answer to this, because I know that Beaverton city limits, especially in central Beaverton, are confusing sometimes. And BPD does not have ownership of some of the areas that might be considered central Beaverton, but there are I think the roads are Beaverton jurisdiction. Is there a breakdown on which, say, if there is information that, say, Washington County Sheriff would have on that versus you guys, or is it all would you be able to get it all from a database?
If whatever I look up numbers wise for, let's say, vehicle crashes are going to be specific to the Beaverton Police Department, I would have to ask the county for their numbers. But being that the jurisdictional lines are kind of screwy, but being that we have most of the roads, something like crashes should be pretty exclusive to just Beaverton Police. So those numbers should be fairly accurate. Is there a certain part of town you're interested in?
No, I just was curious because particularly around Beaverton, once you get north of the Beaverton Central and you go more towards the Five Oaks Triple Creek, there's a lot of shifting boundaries. And when you look at the jurisdictions, it looks like Beaverton actually owns the street, but not necessarily the properties that are adjacent to the street. So with that kind of mixture, I don't know, how that breaks. I know that, people over in West Slope may not be able to, if they need assistance for first responder, they get Washington County. They don't get Beaverton Police Department.
Mostly,
even though the road that they're on is Beaverton. So yeah, I just wasn't sure how that would work out for the reporting statistics.
Good question. I don't think it's going to change much for something like traffic crashes, but something like assaults or domestics or burglaries, that would definitely change things a little bit. You could have some neighborhoods of Cedar Hills are mostly in the county, but we have a little bit. For example, they may have a burglar going through that neighborhood and they hit 5 addresses within unincorporated county, but 1 within Beaverton. So, but anything that's serious like that, we would info share with the agency like the county.
Gotcha. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you for the clarification.
No, thanks. Appreciate it.
So Tom, I'll email Officer Sutton, but I'll CC you so that
sure.
That's okay.
That sounds great.
Cool.
And Kevin, anything specific you were looking for, or just any traffic crash or something more serious like with injury?
I mean, as much detail as there is, I mean, that's great. But specifically locations, like I would love to plug in addresses on a map and just kind of see what pops up.
Okay.
But if there are details that go along with each, I really love digging into this sort of data.
Okay.
Okay. If I could just jump in, it's a way more complicated question than that. And even the police data won't be necessarily coded correctly because it's coded by the place of the most recent intersection. So little trivia fact, the first red light intersections, right, red light cameras, one of the intersections that was picked was 158th and Walker because it had the 7th most highest crashes in the state. And it was attributed to red light running, but it really wasn't. It was the accidents were north of it, but the closest intersection, it was like a 2-lane merge to a 1-lane. And the closest intersection was 158th and Walker. So they can pull that data, Kevin, but it's really super nuanced, really complex. And if you really want to dig into that, it's really good to talk to the transportation engineers and try to figure out the crash intersections and the locations, because there's a lot more factors at play. It's pretty complicated.
That's very interesting. Thank you, Holly.
Yeah.
That is some great information, Holly. Excellent. Are there any other questions or comments for Officer Sutton this evening? Not see anything from our
just good to see you, Brad. Take care. Be safe out there.
Thanks, John. I appreciate that. Good seeing
Yep.
you guys.
We'll see you next month.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great
Thanks,
night.
Brad.
Take care.
And then with that, we'll kick it over to Holly Thompson with the THPRD report.
Okay. Sorry, y'all got me again. Lulu will definitely be back. But
Holly, what are you making us for dinner?
well, it's actually soccer tryouts, and my kid's favorite meal is spaghetti and meatballs. So he's at tryouts right now, and I promised him spaghetti and meatballs.
Mom of the year.
I don't know. But Kate, you were making my mom heart just like voting with your daughter. I just thought that was so cool. Okay, so at THPRD, we had summer registration this weekend. So it was a really, really good turnout, which is really encouraging. One of the things we're really trying to share and make the community aware of is that the bulk of our summer camps are outdoors. So even as we all navigate what's going on with the pandemic and the risk levels and, you know, the assumption that we might be going now into extreme risk potentially in Washington County, we really want folks to know there's some certainty with the camps. They're being planned to be able to go no matter what risk level we're in. And we'll have lots of safe, active options, way more this year than last, all throughout the district. So summer camp registration is on, as well as classes, registration, and more. And we got you this summer. With that, we're also hiring. So, you know, Kate, if your daughter needs a job and everybody else with young people or others.
She already works for Carol at Conestoga. She got hired.
Perfect. That's awesome. That's what we're looking for. So lots of pipeline hiring opportunities right now. Sorry about that, y'all. Okay, pandemic life. I'm gonna try to get away from, okay. Sorry, dog, embarrassed. I think this always happens when Ashley's on a call with me that somebody comes in or dog barks or something. So anyways, yes, we're hiring, lots of positions available. Check us out. We also have youth volunteer opportunities. So our RISE program is active. It's a great program for kiddos that are like 14. It's a you know, tough age where they're looking for opportunities and maybe not job age ready. So lots of opportunities there for people to youth to volunteer. And then we also have lots of one-day volunteer opportunities, community garden cleanups, natural area cleanups, and more. A couple of events this month. We have a really cool one that's going to be held at Vos Elementary. It's La Primavera. I'm going to say this wrong. My Spanish teacher would be so mad at me. La Primavera con familia y amigos. So spring family and friends. It's at Vos Elementary. That we're working to get public input on the Baker Loop property. So it's a piece of property that the Park District purchased. It's off Lombard and Baker Loop, and we're looking for public input on beginning to design that park. And we have an event with Vos on May 15th to get public input there. And then we're also working with American Legion this month on Memorial Day. You know, it's going to be a different Memorial Day again this year, but we're going to have a remembrance walk, and we're inviting community members to send in photos of veterans that we've lost that they want to honor and remember. And we will have their images and a remembrance walk with American Legion on Memorial Day. So lots of activities going on. We did have one really nice thing to share. We got a grant in the last month from the YMCA, and it was to fund summer camps for youth. Like grants, there was a little hook, and the hook was the money had to be spent before the end of June, and we had about 3 weeks to figure that out before summer registration started. But we were able to work with our financial aid families, and we got free summer camps for 2 weeks for 160 kiddos from our financial aid families. So really grateful to the YMCA. Lots of work went in on that, and super, super excited. So good stuff happening. And I'm happy to take any questions, but that's your THPRD update this month.
I have a comment. This is Fran.
Yeah.
I'm very interested in the Alpen Rose recreational baseball and bike riding velodrome and all. And I realize that THPRD I guess, boundary ends right before them, but what hope is there for keeping that recreational land?
I know. I have a strong affinity for Alpenrose. Love that place. Took my kiddos there for the Easter egg hunts every year. It's a real special property, but it is outside of our territorial limits. We did get asked by Pamplin if we were interested in purchasing it, and it's outside of our limits. It's not even an option for us. I think realistically, you know, the family is going to do what they're going to do, and I think they're probably talking private development, but it's not an opportunity for us, unfortunately.
That's sad. Metro can't do anything, you know?
Not that we're aware of, no. And I think they've been asked the question and they've politely passed on it as well.
What a lost opportunity.
Yeah, it's a real special place, totally.
Yeah, let me just to jump into to piggyback on that. With the Alpenrose property, we are losing a very particular piece of infrastructure in the velodrome that's there. There's really not a lot regionally, and it's used quite a bit in the community. Going forward, how would it be? Where does the process start for citizens who would like to have THPRD consider a similar facility for future development?
You know, it's interesting. I really wondered when we did our visioning process, you know, we talked to like 10,500 people. And I was really curious what was going to happen during that process, because the Alpenrose discussion was up in the air while we were out in the community. It did not bubble up. So it wasn't something people talked about. Mountain bike racing, right, which isn't the velodrome, but they talked about more adventure type sports, but really no comments on the Alpenrose property. So that was pretty surprising to me. But I think if people are interested, contacting your board of directors, sending in letters, expressing interest, that's all good stuff. And it's, you know, definitely something that people should advocate for if they're interested in it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Okay, to our next hand raise, I think, John.
Yeah, thanks. Holly, I was wondering, and maybe I'm not sure if you'll know this, or this is a question for Lulú, but for Schiffler Park, the dog run, I find it to be underutilized. And I think the primary reason is people don't know about it. And so, number one, is there anything we can do from an event perspective or from a neighborhood mailer or something like that? So that's question number one. Number two, we desperately need trees there too. When it gets really hot, like people just bake. And so we don't want them showing up and then having a bad experience. So I think it's really important to provide a really good experience and then get a lot of people there, because it's such a magical park in general. And I think the more people that experience it, the better. And, you know, there's no close dog parks by. So.
You know, that's a really good point, and it's an interesting one, because the dog runs are a little bit different than traditional dog parks. And part of our negotiation with the neighbors in different places was advertising them differently. Schiffler is not one where the neighbors have said, don't promote this, but we have other dog runs where they said, you know, kind of like, this is for the neighbors here. We don't want to see it be a magnet like a park, because it's really meant to be a much smaller scale. But I totally agree with you. We could do more promotion and marketing of Schiffler. So I think the intent was probably to go into it and treat it like more traditional dog runs where they're really meant to be smaller scale to the neighborhood. But definitely if it's being underutilized, we could do more promotion and work to capitalize that. So I'll make a note of that and we'll think about that and talk.
Yeah, I think a neighborhood event, you know, we don't have to invite the entire city, but just like a neighborhood social or a getting to know your neighborhood park kind of thing, you know, is the way to go about. Because I walk there at least once a day with I don't know if you can see him behind me, Odin, and yeah, I hardly ever see anyone, and it's just I want to go there with him, but there's nobody to play with, right? So it's like, well, I don't go there, and I'm not going to wait for other dogs. So
we got to get you more doggies to play with then.
He needs more doggy friends.
All right, we will work on that. The shade, I know they're working on some tree plantings there. I don't know the proximity to the dog park. I don't think it was by the dog run, but I will ask our staff about that as well.
Yeah, we're part of the group working on the plantings, and
Yeah.
we're actually talking about that today at the park with a couple other people there. They're like, well, plant trees over here. And we're like, yes, we can ask, because we would love to have it. So
yeah, right now the current plan for those trees that we know of is kind of by the playground right now.
Well, we're definitely planning a summer of smaller events. So I will definitely take that back to our events team and talk about what can we do for the dog runs, and maybe pop all the dog runs in and do some sort of doggy event there to get traction.
yeah, the only thing I would ask, if we have an event subcommittee here at the Central NAC, and we're kind of getting our feet. And so we would love to do some joint planning, or maybe just have some early conversations if you guys have any ideas, so we can learn about kind of what your event planning process is and how we can get better at it too.
Well, I'll have my staff reach out to you this week. We'll
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, I even recall that the NAC had previously been discussing a pop-up dog park event, singles event. I think this was probably a couple of years ago now.
Look how cute that dog is. That dog does need buddies.
Absolutely. So yeah, we've already had discussion about potentially doing events around dog parks.
That's awesome.
So yeah, we would love to work with you. Excellent. Are there any other questions for THPRD tonight? Okay, well, it sounds like you might have some hungry people that have just arrived.
Yes, yes. Looking at his
So we well, thank you for joining us this evening and updating us, and we'll look forward to seeing either you or Lulu the next time you come by.
All right, thank you. Okay. Bye.
Fantastic. And with that, let's go to the Jonathan Todd-Kourlas with the BCCI report.
Hello, yes. So at the Beaverton Committee for Community Involvement meeting, just a couple of things to share. We got an update from the city, the events program. And so they kind of got the feel that people are burnt out over virtual events. So they're going to try to have a few more in-person, smaller events with safety guidelines. So there's a wellness series coming up. I'll put a link to the city's website in the chat in a moment. But there's things like, well, one of them already happened. So you missed out on meditative art, sorry. But Tai Chi and meditation is coming up. Several yogas, therapeutic horticulture, which I think sounds pretty cool. There's a couple things in the city will be doing in June. Some events in July with THPRD, like a scavenger hunt and a Shakespeare festival. The Chalk Festival's happening again. So there are still events coming up this year. They have also come up with event guidelines and verbiage for website and social media, like if we plan an event, that we can use that. It's already created. A couple other things we missed. It's happening, or happened right earlier, but we, with Highland, through a live webinar on creating a backyard habitat, but that already happened, so sorry. And a couple other things. Allison Tivnon, they mentioned that they interviewed the full-time city managers last week. So there'll be time coming up. I don't think there's any specific time yet, but to meet with or talk and ask questions to the city managers. So be on the lookout for that. The Climate Action Task Force is happening. So if you want to join that, take a look for that. And just the last couple things, the matching grants approved the Beaverton Downtown Association bike tools and things that we approved a couple months ago. I believe they already approved the Pride Beaverton through us, even though it's being presented tonight. But I guess it's ahead of its.
It's a pre-approval. It's credit cards do it all the time.
I'm assuming we'll approve it, so that's good. The Beaverton Voters Forum happened last Thursday. If you missed it, check it out. It is on YouTube. It had the candidates that are here today and THPRD. Last two things, we are in the final stages of reworking the land use page on the NAC resources page. So if you are ever in need of land use information, it has been simplified and broken out, easy to understand and get information. And traffic calming is still in the works. We plan on going and presenting findings and data and what we want changed at the June meeting with the Traffic Commission. So hopefully we can convince them to change some things about that. And that's all I got.
Hey, Jonathan, about that, I was talking to Adam Gretzinger, the chair of Highland, and they've created a document, and I will submit it to this NAC for the minutes. I don't have it right now, but basically in order to let neighbors know, so they'll submit input. Maybe we can, Tom, I don't know if we have an email address or an email list, if the board is okay with it, but it's just basically informational on how they can help BCCI by submitting comments. Basically explains in very layman's terms what the current process is and why it has failed us. They give examples of the failure, like 130th, Wilson, a couple others like that. Anyway, they've gone through the trouble of making all this, and it seems like a really great resource to get people involved in that traffic calming public input. So I will submit it to you all pretty soon. They actually asked me to do it, and I just remembered when you mentioned that. I'll dig it up and email it to you, Tom.
Yeah, so John, you're referring to just the general contact list for anybody who has attended a meeting or
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and this one they actually printed. From what I understand, they were printing some of these out, and we're gonna take them throughout their neighborhood and just put them at people's houses, so they have like almost like a literature drop kind of thing, just to get people aware of, because we're all burnt out on emails and everything. But
sure.
I'll forward it over to you.
Yeah, and I think then we just need to coordinate with Franziska and Miles about whether that's the appropriate use of their.
Okay.
Because that's the city's list. It's not ours.
Yeah, we just need to ask them.
Right.
Cool. All right, I'll forward it over to you.
Thank you. Jonathan, was that it? Great. Any questions for BCCI? No. All right. Well, let's go ahead then quickly to Franziska with the city updates.
Great, thanks so much. So about a couple of things that were just mentioned, the backyard habitat event, it was actually tonight, right now, but the recording of the event will be posted to this website that I will put in the chat here. It should be really awesome. The Voters Forum, the recording is on the website. I'll also put that in the chat here in a moment. And to John's comment, we've actually been getting lots of folks emailing the neighbor mail at beavertonoregon.gov email address with testimony, or at least commentary about the traffic calming program and their desire to see changes. So so those are coming in. So thanks to everyone who's been at other NAC meetings and encouraging people to share their feedback and thoughts. So
yeah, and that's what the forum, that's the email address that's on the forum.
Yep.
So that's why you're getting it. So cool.
Yep,
it's working.
absolutely.
All right, sweet.
Yep, so it's working. So
sweet.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that. So speaking of meeting the city manager finalists, the city manager recruitment continues with opportunities for community members and staff to meet the finalists for the position. A virtual event for the public will happen Thursday, May 13th at 6 p.m. and will be accessible via beavertonoregon.gov/city manager. The event will include remarks from each of the finalists, as well as answers to your questions on various topics. And you are welcome to submit questions in advance. It will be over Zoom webinar, so you can submit questions the night of, but if you want a higher likelihood of your question being asked, I definitely encourage you to submit it in advance. A survey to assess community preferences will distribute after to help with decisions. An appointment by City Council is expected to occur in summer. Free tax help has been extended, so Cash Oregon and Metropolitan Family Services will continue to offer tax preparation and filing services through Thursday, July 15th to Beaverton residents. Since the IRS has extended the tax deadline this year. So beginning May 27th, assistance will continue after the deadline with services offered Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. And you can call 503-966-7942 to make an appointment. Learn more at cashoregon.org. I'll also put that link in the chat. And then last but not least, council meetings are moving to 6 p.m. So the Beaverton City Council will begin holding meetings at 6 p.m. instead of 6:30 p.m. while the current state of emergency is in effect, starting with May meetings. Tomorrow night's meeting, so the May 4th City Council meeting, will begin at 5:30 p.m. and include roundtable discussions on council priorities, the School Resource Officers Program, and other topics. And you can visit beavertonoregon.gov/city council for agendas and additional meeting information. Does anyone have any questions on anything that I just talked about?
I do.
Yeah, absolutely.
I understand that the building where this NAC used to meet and had the ESL classes and now houses homeless is going to be raised, or the city's giving it up? And what is all that about across from the library?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So there's a project, a senior affordable housing project that is in motion for that site, for the community center. And we actually hosted a town hall last month in April to talk about that project, as well as the library fountain improvements project. And then there's also the proposed book corner project that hasn't been approved yet, but is in discussions. And I can put the link in the chat to learn more information. Oh, there you go, Kevin. Well, Kevin, if you want to repost that for all attendees as well, that would be great. There's a website where you can learn more about those projects and watch the recording of that town hall that Mayor Lacey Beatty hosted, and also submit feedback for that project via that site as well.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just want to say, kind of along, I assume at some point, so all of the other projects that were included in that What's Happening on 5th presentation have gone through this NAC already for neighborhood response meetings. We haven't seen the senior affordable housing project come through yet. I anticipate at some point we will. So there should be opportunity for more explicit neighborhood feedback on that. So Fran, I know you're a regular follower of the agenda and whatnot,
Yeah.
and so I haven't heard anything about it yet. So it was news to me when I attended the open house as well. So
yeah, I hate to give up a usable building.
Yeah,
there's a lot of factors that went into that decision. There's Metro bond money. In terms of why that site was chosen, it has to do with its proximity to services, transportation, several other factors for consideration. So I definitely encourage you to go to the website to learn more about it, and certainly share your thoughts. But yeah, the decision for that site specifically was one that involved a lot of deliberation with staff and assessing several different site options. So, however, we do understand that people have an attachment to that site and the community gardens that are with it. But senior affordable housing is a priority of the city, and so trying to find viable sites to make those opportunities a reality is tricky. That balance is always tricky. Are there any other questions?
I have one.
Go ahead, John.
I was gonna say, do you know if the city, Franziska, do you know if the city considered the parking lot of the library, like building over it? You know, like it's just wasted space most of the time. It's just a surface lot. We could have easily put 4 or 5 stories above that, maintained the parking for the library, had plenty of parking, and then, you know, activated that site, because right now it's just, I walk by it 5 times a week, and I know it's been the pandemic, but I walk by it 5 times a week before, and it's never been full. It's never been, you know, it's like, it's just, we love concrete in the city, and we've got to change that mindset. And we've got to, I wonder if it was even looked at as an option.
Yeah, you know, I don't actually know if that site in particular was looked at. I know that there were several different sites that were assessed for their viability for the project, but the contact information for the person that could certainly connect you to somebody who would have that answer is on that website. I'm not off the top of my head. I could say, Cadence would have the answer, but I don't know specifically. Javier, actually, I think Javier Mena would be the person. He's in charge of, it used to be called Project C. So he would be the person that would know.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course, yeah.
Franziska, I have an unrelated question.
Yes, of course.
Amanda sent me a really interesting picture this past week of Beaverton's favorite tree. It's on 12th and Tucker, 12th and Franklin.
Mm.
And I think we're both interested in learning more about this tree. Can we reach out to the city arborist?
Yeah, Jared Lane. Let me put his email address here.
But what about the tree that's right out front of the library, or not the post office? That's the best tree in Beaverton, 1992 or something like that. Is there?
Yeah, this one actually has like a plaque in front of it.
There's a plaque in front of the post office
yeah,
too.
I know, and this one's from 1990, so we must have changed our mind.
Maybe it's a yearly competition, and what happened to it? I mean, we want to get people back into.
Sometimes you just got to break up with a tree, and start a new one.
I wonder what our tree for 2021 would be if we had a contest for Beaverton's favorite tree.
Those are burning questions.
Maybe it's time to pose that question to the community.
I do have something to. This is Jolene. To add to that.
Yes.
We do have some historical trees in Beaverton, but I don't think any have been added in quite some time. And I'd be curious how you get a tree on the historical tree list of Beaverton, because I know the library tree is not a historical tree. No. And so I think some of these trees should be get some protection under the historical trees.
I am not actually sure, but Jared Lane, who's our city arborist, manages that whole program. So, Tom, Jared is super delightful. I don't know if he would be interested or able to come to this meeting. I know this NAC in particular is very tree friendly. So maybe we should have him out and he can talk all about it.
That's true. Yeah, I'm not sure what I know. Personally, I know that the state of Oregon Department of I guess it's environmental quality designates significant trees, but I'm not familiar with any body, and myself, I'm not familiar with any body or designation for historic trees or any particular special protections around them. The significant trees and the significant groves definitely do, yeah, he may have some good answers for us. I have a quick question for you, Franziska, that isn't totally related to any other thing. Census 2020 numbers have started to be released by the government. Once upon a time, there was a great resource on the NAC page with a breakdown of Census 2010. Do you know if neighborhood office has any plans to compile something like that again?
Yeah, I'm sure that it is somewhere on the list. We have been a little bit constricted in capacity with Miles being having intermittent leave for family at the moment. So, but I know that that data is really valuable, and being able to see it from a NAC by NAC level is certainly something that a lot of people really appreciate, and certainly us too, for the kinds of outreach that we do. So I will be sure to flag that as something that would be good to do before 2021 is over.
Cool. Thank you. All right. Let's try and move then quickly into, were there any other questions for the city? Franziska? Great, let's go quickly into officers' reports and then maybe try and make up a little bit of time. So I assume all the board members, received the minutes. And are there any edits or addenda to the minutes that anyone would like to have added or corrections? Seeing a whole lot of no. Okay. In that case, shall we accept the minutes as submitted?
I'll make a motion. We accept the minutes as written.
Thank you very much. Motion on the floor from John Duggar.
I second that motion.
Jonathan got it.
Second. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as submitted, say aye or yay, or otherwise indicate affirmative or negative. Hooray! Thank you very much. And then Quinn Simpson. Anything happened with the Treasury? Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, we had a starting balance of $6,326.04 and an ending balance of $6,326.26. So just 22 cents for interest.
Excellent. And I realize I didn't follow up with you. I had. Did you get the confirmation about the grant funding from BCCI for the BDA bike repair stations?
Nope.
Okay. Well, maybe you and I and Kevin can coordinate to make sure that Kevin, is it okay to contact with you with that, or should I contact your interns?
You can contact me. Yep.
Okay, great. Well, we'll make sure that that goes through. Cool. Fantastic. All right. Finally, down to
Tom?
Yes.
That was about the grant for the bike rack or bike
Yes,
station?
the bike stations.
That did go through. I got an email from Miles.
Yeah, I know it went through. I just wanted to make sure that it was funded, that like the money came through.
Oh, the money will come through after we submit a reimbursement request.
Okay. Gotcha.
So we have not done that yet.
Okay then. I was wrong.
Yeah.
Usually this thing's all for some reason happen without my input at all. So
We did make 22 cents in interest last month, and I'm not saying we should have a party, but I'm not saying we shouldn't.
Sounds like penny candy for everybody.
I figured that you guys had bought a stamp or something.
You know, I try not to spend it all in one place, but 22 cents, you know.
Oh, fantastic. Well, Kate, I believe you are the current panelist up to let us know about a different matching grant application, this one for Pride Beaverton 2021.
Yes, yes, I am.
The meeting is yours.
Excellent, thank you. My name is Kate Kristiansen. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the Executive Director of Pride Beaverton. We are in our third-ish year, and I say that because last year we had wonderful intentions and a pandemic to deal with. In 2019, which is what I consider our last year, we had almost 10,000 guests join us in downtown Beaverton, across from the library in the Beaverton Farmers Market parking lot, what is the fountain area, and just all over the place. We had a parade that went a quarter mile through downtown Beaverton, and it was just fantastic. This year, we're working with the city in order to have another COVID responsible event, just like Jonathan, Todd-Kourlas had mentioned that the city has all sorts of language. Well, they have all sorts of rules as well. They have rules for fencing and for sanitizing stations and bathrooms and all sorts of stuff. And we're working our very best with all of the event people with the city in order to make sure that we are compliant as much as possible. We are not having a parade this year, just to keep that number of people down. We are having Sir Cupcake's Queer Circus for the third year in a row, which is very exciting. And this year, what we're going to do is we're going to do 3 performances by Sir Cupcake's Queer Circus, and we're going to ticket them. The tickets will be free, but they will be Eventbrite ticketed so that we can have individual groups of people maintaining 6 or less people per group and 6 feet or more distance between them in the audience. Our MC for the day will be Poison Waters, which is very exciting. And Poison is going to help us get people into and out of the 12 p.m., 2 p.m., and 4 p.m. performances. She will be, get in, get seated, get it going, and then get out, you've seen it, which is her specialty. And we'll save the countless volunteers. Please leave quietly, please leave and don't touch anything. She's willing to yell at them for us, which is excellent. I wanted to share a map with you guys. So I'm going to share my screen if that's okay. And let's see if this will share. Do you guys see this? Can you, somebody, there we go.
Yes,
awesome. So this is the tentative drawing of Pride in the Park. This is north, so top right there is the library. And the street we're looking at is Hall Street between 5th, which is at the bottom of your screen, and 3rd, which is at the top of your screen. This year, we're asking to have Hall Street blocked off for the hours of the performances and that sort of stuff. Because the fountain is down this year, we can't use the contiguous space between what is the farmer's market and the green space next to the fountain. Therefore, we have made application to use the green space across from the library. We're going to fence that in, and as you can see on the bottom there, we're going to put up a stage and then potted units where people will be sitting watching for each of the 3 performances across from the library. We're going to have a food court on Hall Street and a queer beer garden and a DJ playing some music. And then as in the top left, you can see the vendors, and that's where the Beaverton Farmers Market is traditionally. It will be Pride in the Park, which is our vendors, our artisans, and anybody that wants to support the LGBTQA community. It's generally we have about 100 vendors. We're going to have significantly less this year, but it will be support associations, artists, and people that we've had join us before. We have to barrier in both the north and south end of Hall Street. We have to fence in the area around the stage and the seating in order to maintain the minimum or maximum number of guests allowed. And there will be a bunch of toilets and a bunch of hand sanitizing and hand washing stations. We are coming to the NAC because you guys partnered with us before, and we really appreciated it. This is a huge event, and it makes a lot of sense to be a partner with the Central NAC. We bring a lot of business. We bring in, like I said, 10,000 guests and a track through downtown when we had a parade. But this year, we're just bringing in probably, I'm hoping for only 5,000 people, 2,000 to 5,000. It's a trick because everybody wants out. Everybody wants a chance to participate, and everybody wants a chance to get out and see some things. And so let me see what else I can show you. We are excited. Our website will be coming on live in the next couple of days. And on that, you will be able to partner with us as sponsors or as volunteers and vendors. If you know any businesses in the community that would like to participate, this is a great place to do that. Last thing, let's see here. Oops, don't quit Zoom. You might recognize a couple of these fellows in the center there. That's John and Quinn and baby Odin, but we have been invited.
Hey, we don't see it. You gotta reshare your screen with the.
Okay, it says stop share, so let's see.
Yeah, go ahead and stop share and then reshare it with the images or whatever.
Okay, let's try that
Little
again.
quirk of Zoom.
I like it. It's funny, my kids spend all day on Zoom, and I can't seem to do it. You know what? That's fine. I'll just go to Zoom to you guys and talk. Sorry. I was showing you a little bit of stuff that was going to be on our website, and forget it. And then I was going to show you a picture of Sir Cupcake's Queer Circus, but forget that too. It's not for you. Not yet. But it's going to be a tremendous day, and it's going to be one of those things. It's June 27th, 2021. It's going to be one of those things that this is the first big event that the city will be hosting. The city and us and you and all of Central Beaverton will be hosting in a year and a half, and it's pretty exciting. Do you have questions for me? What can I tell you?
Can you share with us? So you're asking for the full, the maximum grant amount?
I am. So half of the sponsors from the last 2 years have actually gone bankrupt or are unable to help us in any which way. So we are really trying to stretch our budget and work. We've asked Sir Cupcake to take a hit in their compensation. We've asked Poison Waters offered us 20% off of her bill because everybody wants to work and wants to make it work. But yes, we are asking for a full $3,000 from you guys.
Yeah, and that was just clarification. Not any
Absolutely.
sort of,
But
mhm.
I'm swinging for the fence with absolutely everybody I can right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Tom, this is one of those years where everyone's revenue's down, but because of the added precautions, expenses are up significantly. You know, we have to do all the fences and sanitation. So it's one of those things that we're asking everyone, not only for financial help, any little bit helps, but also volunteer. That's critical because, you know, the labor amount that we have to do this year is significantly more than in years past. So it's been a tough road, especially for Kate and the team. So
yes, I love that my team is speaking up too. Thank you. This is while you were talking, I just was popping up some of the images that we're starting to share, which is so fun. Does anybody else have a question?
And I know that you have quite a large number of volunteer hours and in-kind donations and sponsors as well for the.
So this is a project that I work on year round. And as it comes towards June, it is my singular focus. I'm a stay-at-home mom, artist, and Pride is my gig. I have 3 teenagers that are that have been in CDL. So I'm now home with just one, but this is my job. We do have a number of volunteers from several organizations around Beaverton, and we've just partnered with Nike, with Benevity, in order to have some matching grants and different things like that. So we're hoping to get a huge number of Nike employees to join us too. And then of course the schools have graduation. They have to have a certain number of volunteer hours to graduate. And so we are expecting a bunch of kids from some of the different programs in high schools around the area too.
That's fantastic. And then I think my last question for kind of the due diligence side is, will you have some sort of banner with sponsors on it, or a program, or some way that you're acknowledging the participants?
Absolutely. In years past, we put you guys on the back of our t-shirts with our other major sponsors. We also acknowledged you from the stage. And then there are banners that go on the sides of the stage too. This year it'll be Poison Waters. So when she's doing her introductions and come sit downs and do that stuff, she'll be also thanking the people that made it possible, which includes hopefully you guys and that sort of thing. So yes, as much as possible. No, you will not be able to march in this year's parade because it'll be lonely. But aside from that, we're happy to take care of you.
That's great. Well, that's all of my questions from the due diligence side. Are there questions from the rest of the board or the membership? Anybody just want to know more about what it takes to organize this mammoth event? That
it's huge.
Tom, Quinn and I will be abstaining from the vote, as we're obviously part of Pride Beaverton too. So just remove us from the quorum for that.
The cat running in front of your.
Great. Okay. Well, in that case,
he really wants to vote.
Right. There's a lot of voting happening. There's ballots, and then there's this. I mean, there's lots.
A lot of voting. Good voting.
Yes. No. Thank you so much for having me and for putting up with all of it. I really appreciate it. It is Herculean, but it is such a joy, and it's so important to the community. I can't tell you. That's one of the takeaways from this, is that, you know, while it's my favorite thing to do for the party aspect and the floats and that sort of stuff, it's when the little kids come up to you and they're like, thank you so much. You helped my parents understand where I'm coming from. Or the older people going, you know, I never thought I'd have a pride in my town. Or, you know, it's the connections. And we are going to be huge next year, but it's so remarkable to keep the bridge and keep the event going.
All right. So do we have anybody want to put forth a motion to accept this matching grant application, or any addendas or anything else that you want to add to it? questions that you have around it?
I put forth the motion to approve the matching grant as submitted.
Excellent.
And
So
I'll
does
second
Colby.
that one.
Kinsey, are you with us in order to vote?
I'm here and
All
I'm ready to
right.
vote.
All those in favor of the motion to approve this matching grant, say aye or nay, or otherwise indicate.
Aye.
Hooray, passes unanimously. Kate, thank you for approaching us again and coordinating this great event that I know previously was just really well received. And thank you for giving us the opportunity to participate in our own way. And
Absolutely.
hope you
I'm
put
going
up-
to stay in because I'd like to hear the candidates speak.
Yes, absolutely. So with that out of the way, thank you very much. We'll go ahead and now move into the candidates. I will go ahead and apologize to Dan. And is Jean joining us later too? Yeah, they're going to be mad at me.
Actually, I've been texting with Dan. They're having
Okay.
a very involved conversation at URAC, so I said, stay there. I'll let you know when it switch over.
Yeah, I mean, there's interesting loop stuff to talk about, but we'll go ahead and we'll have enough time for them. So, candidates approached us for some agenda time. So, with that in mind, we've got 2 candidates for Beaverton City Council that are going to speak this evening. The format is not a debate, so I would please ask the candidates from commenting or questioning directly their opponent. And the format is open-ended. Each one of you will have 15 minutes of your own time to speak at length and answer questions. And however you would like to divide that time, it's up to you. If you're finished or we have a lull and you want to see the rest of your time, then that's great. We'll just all be able to end the session a little sooner. So with that in mind, I now turn this meeting over to Jerome Sibayan, candidate for City Council, and your time will start whenever you start.
All right. Well, thank you for your time. My name is Jerome Sibayan, and I am a candidate for Beaverton City Council because I am a public servant and I want to serve the people of Beaverton with honor, integrity, and respect. I am the son of Filipino immigrants and was raised in Salem. I now live in the Vos neighborhood, just a few blocks south of the main library. I am a veteran. I am a retired Army Lieutenant Colonel. I served for 28 years in war and peace around the world and throughout the United States. I am a licensed professional engineer with bachelor's and master's degrees in civil engineering. As a former public works director, I understand the importance of infrastructure to a resilient and sustainable city. I am an educator with master's and doctorate degrees in history and political science. I taught courses on healthcare inequities and human rights at Portland State University and currently teach graduate courses on national security and critical thinking at the Army War College. Like you, I am a community volunteer. I understand the deep personal investment it takes to voluntarily serve the people of Beaverton. I have served the people of Beaverton through the Human Rights Advisory Commission, Social Services Funding Committee, Beaverton Severe Weather Shelter, Community Emergency Response Team, Beaverton School District Bond Accountability Committee, Metro's Get Moving 2020 Transportation Infrastructure Investment Team, and Home Plate for Homeless Youth Board of Directors. I also serve with Engineers Without Borders, Community Engineering Corps, and the Education First Scholarship Foundation, all benefiting traditionally underserved communities. I am grateful that my military pension and ongoing teaching allows me to continue my long tradition of public service and to self-fund my campaign. If elected, I will donate all after-tax counselor compensation to local nonprofits doing great work right here in Beaverton. There are some things I want to address as part of my time. So self-funding is an important part of my campaign. And I do it because I can. You know, I earned this military pension after 28 years in the Army, and I think I earned the right to decide how to spend it. I give extraordinarily generously. In an average year, I either donate or give away $20,000 to $30,000. And I find it unconscionable to ask people for money in the middle of a pandemic. and a recession. I think people are struggling. I think people are suffering. And I think it's unconscionable to ask them for money for a political campaign. Also, I find it easier to make decisions, fair decisions, when I'm not wondering who I need to pay back for political contributions. If you know anything about me, you'll know that I'm a former federal whistleblower against official corruption. And I promise you, I cannot be bought, and my integrity is not for sale. Now, one of the reasons I'm running is because of the charter. I find it nuanced, ambiguous, and self-contradictory. But I intend to implement the charter in a reasonable and practical manner that ensures that we have an effective and efficient government that serves the people of Beaverton. And part of that is I believe that just like counselors attend boards and commissions, I think a counselor should also attend every NAC meeting. And that's part of listening to the people. I think the people of Beaverton deserve a master plan. We have a vision action plan. We have a comprehensive plan. And those are great. Those are great starts. But I think as a former public works director, one of the tools in developing a city is a master plan, which connects this grand vision with solid engineering, planning, and design. If we had a master plan, we wouldn't be having a conversation about what's going to happen with the community center or the severe weather shelter. We wouldn't be having conversations about what's going to happen with the Griffith building, because we would have had those conversations 5, 10, 15 years ago. And so that's just my thought. And I know you have the loop coming up, and I tell you, I strongly urge you to push to make the loop a destination unto itself, rather than just a tool of connecting the city. I think it can become a destination itself. And I have some ideas. Nobody's really listening to me right now, but I have some ideas. I'm going to type my email address in the chat, and maybe we can have a conversation later of more specifics. But I think things like the Empire State Building and the Golden Gate Bridge were built in the Depression, and I think it's important to think big, dream big, and just go for it. So I'll leave it at that, and I don't know if there's any questions. Otherwise, I'll cede my time back to the chair.
Are there questions for Mr. Sibayan from panelists, attendees, whomever?
I have a question. Tell me, I'm right now, trans rights are big in the news, and trans people participating in sports is a big deal. With your work with Home Plate, I'm assuming you are pro LGBTQ, but tell me, how do you feel about LGBTQ students and LGBTQ people in our community?
I think the queer community, I prefer to, I don't know, I'd prefer to call them the queer community. But I think the queer community should be encouraged and supported, and we should wrap our arms around them. And I think they should be protected. I think they should have the same opportunities that everybody else has. And that it's easily said, and unfortunately it's hard to do. And I just believe that should be a core value.
So following that up, 75% of the homeless children in Beaverton, because Beaverton has that huge, horrifying distinction of having the highest number of homeless children in our state, but 75% of them identify as LGBTQA. How do we start addressing that? Is that a queer community issue, or is that a homeless kids issue? Again, looking into your Home Plate work.
Yeah, I think it's both. I think we need to work with the school district. I think we need to work with our nonprofits. As a counselor, I can imagine that I think part of that, my role would be to set the example and push those initiatives. I don't think city can do it by itself. I don't think the city should do it by itself. I think the city should do it as a part of the community, a leader in the community, but it takes the community to do it.
I'm very proud of you for running. I ran twice, and it's hard work, and it's a big deal. And I'm proud of you. No matter how this goes out, you've done great work.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll pop in with a question for you. So you brought up the city charter, and you mentioned that you feel that there are some inconsistencies on it. The council and then the community just adopted a new city charter for the first time in 40 years last spring.
Right.
So can you explain either an example of what you see as, aside from the master plan, which is something you brought up already, what the deficiencies or contradictions are, and then would you mind sharing what your role, if you had any role in, from the community side, in the word or in the process of forming the charter that went out to voters last year?
Yeah, well, full disclosure, I supported the new charter, and I just find it self-contradictory. Contradictory. One example is, the new city manager is accountable and responsible to the council, but the mayor cannot direct. It specifically says the mayor cannot direct the city manager in the performance of his duties. And the council, and it's a weird phrasing, the council may not coerce the city manager. And, as a former commander and supervisor, I can tell you, I have told people to do their job, and I'm sure they took it as coercion. So it's just some curious language. I don't know why it's in there. I'm told there are reasons it's in there, but I think it should be more clear. I think the city charter was not written for the average Beavertonian to understand. And my issue with it is that if only 20 people in the city of 100,000 understand how the city is supposed to work, that sets up really the conditions for corruption. Because all they have to do is say, well, you don't understand how the city works, and then they're done. And that's why I think that the council and the mayor have a responsibility to educate and inform the people of Beaverton about exactly how their government works. Come to these NAC meetings and tell people, this is how it's supposed to work. If you're looking for a great example, go back to the January council retreat and watch the city attorney try to walk the council and the mayor through line by line of the charter and ask for clarification. And frankly, they couldn't do it. They got halfway through it and they just gave up because it was, that was not the intent of the retreat. The intent of the retreat was to identify the priorities, but there needs to be some kind of reckoning here with that. And another example is there's no stated mechanism to make changes to the charter. I understand there are state laws, but why does it have to be so ambiguous? Why doesn't it cite the state law or the guidance that says this is how the charter is changed? To change something from happy to glad, do we have to go to a citywide referendum for that? I hope not, but like I said, an average Beavertonian cannot read and understand the city charter, and that, to me, that's a problem.
Thank you. John, did you have your hand up?
I was going to ask, thanks for participating, Jerome. What we've seen consistently from new development and existing city policy, we're losing a lot of trees, and a new development will come in and we're not actively, it doesn't seem, at least anecdotally, and I've looked over the development code, it doesn't seem like we're actually encouraging the development to incorporate existing mature trees. They just cut them down and then they plant tiny little diameter trees. We saw in the planning commission, same thing happened last month with the Beaverton Central, the Fred Meyer, the new shopping building. They're going to replace big trees with smaller, tiny trees. There's a big disconnect with our climate policy. we say we're a green, we say we're an Arbor City, Arbor Day Foundation City. We love trees, but also cut down whatever you want and replace them with tiny. There are a few of us that have been fighting this battle. Just curious to get your thoughts, where you stand on tree policy and what are your, just in general. Thank you.
Yeah.
Before you, I just want to let you know, 2 minutes remain in your time.
Okay, thank you. A perfect example is, the trees that are going to be lost when the private development going in across the fountain goes in. They're going to lose a number of very old trees, very big trees, and that's just, I guess that's the price of doing business in order to address affordable housing. But I think, I think that should be a very important criteria rather than an afterthought. And I think, my neighbor over here just cut down a perfectly healthy walnut tree that was giant, but he just didn't like the way the leaves fell on his roof, and that's crazy. So it's things like that. I think there should be a more rational approach to permitting for people to cut down trees to begin with.
Fantastic. In your last minute, any last quick questions or anything else that you would like to add?
Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you very much, Jerome. And now we will turn the meeting over to Ashley Hartmeyer-Prigg for her time, and your time will start as soon as you would like, and I'll give you a 2-minute warning as well.
Thank you, Tom. Hi, everyone. My name is Ashley Hartmeyer-Prigg, and I'm running for Beaverton City Council Seat 1. I grew up in Beaverton, and I spent a lot of time at the old library back when it was on Allen, and then the new library over on 5th. And I've lived in Beaverton or Lulú nearly my entire life, with the exception of college, where I attended the University of Portland. But I commuted to law school in Salem from Beaverton. I am currently the chair of the board of directors of the Tualatin Hills Park and Recreation District. And at THPRD, we've seen the importance of regional relationships. We've seen the importance of government acting in service to the people. And I believe my leadership experience at THPRD has prepared me to serve on city council. We passed an affordable housing policy that will help bring over 600 affordable units to our area. We partnered to host shelters for people experiencing homelessness in our spaces during COVID-19 closures. And we created a new naming process for parks and trails to truly reflect the rich diversity of our community. I am proud to be endorsed by our Washington County Chair, Catherine Harrington, our Metro President, Lynn Peterson, and our Beaverton Mayor, Lacey Beatty. Partnerships like this across our region are the types of partnerships needed for navigating our COVID-19 recovery. We need these partnerships for creative solutions for affordable housing and for doing our part to reverse climate change. I am also proud to be endorsed by the Beaverton Area Chamber of Commerce, the Tualatin Valley Firefighters Union, and the Beaverton Education Association. And I share this with you because these relationships are very important to me to make sure that I hit the ground running in service to the residents of Beaverton. The problems that we face as individuals and as families, like we're all an intersection of something, right? Whether that's a student or a worker or a small business, right? And so these endorsements are so meaningful to me because they help say that these groups, these individuals believe I'm the right person to help do this work for the residents of Beaverton. So that's all I want to share about myself. I'd rather give you lots of time to ask me questions. I just want to thank you for having me today, and also thank you for the time that you spend serving on your NAC and the very, very important input you provide to the city. So I am open to all questions you have.
Thank you very much. And so with that, we will open the floor to questions. Kate, was that your hand again?
It is. So
bring it.
Yeah, I was gonna say back to the LGBTQA community. The gay community needs leaders to acknowledge and accept and understand that this is a challenging place to be, not lifestyle, but place to be. we're talking about the homeless kids. 75% of the homeless children in the Beaverton School District identify as not straight or LGBTQA. We are doing things. We actually declared our first Pride ever in 2018. We came out of the closet, but we're decades behind other cities as far as celebration and acceptance. How do you feel about the LGBTQA community, and how do you see working with the LGBTQA community to build a better Beaverton?
Yeah, I love this question. First, I just want to say trans rights are human rights. I feel so much for our trans kids right now. They're being attacked unfairly by people who honestly they just have evil in them, is all I can say about this. Trans girls are girls, trans boys are boys. They deserve to play sport. They deserve to be their being, live who they are. They deserve access to healthcare. And I know that some of those things I can't affect at City Council, but I want you to know, Kate, that any LGBTQIA individual will always be welcome by me and will always be welcome in Beaverton as long as I have anything to say about it. I was so sad that Pride couldn't happen in 2020. 2019 was so special. It's so moving. Like any Pride event I've ever been to is just like the happiest thing, right? And for people to get to come and live their true self and be somewhere that they are celebrated and loved on, everyone deserves to feel that. And so, you know, for our kiddos that are LGBT, I'm sorry, I keep stumbling over the acronym. I get a little emotional about this topic because I have a trans friend, and when she came out to me, it was such an honorable experience for me that she felt that she could trust me to tell me that. And I have seen, you know, just how her life with her family has been. And so I care very much about this because everyone deserves to be loved, right? And so for our kiddos who are experiencing homelessness and are also LGBTQIA+, we need to do everything we can to let them know that there is somewhere safe for them, that they're, you know, that they can come as they are and we will help take care of them. It doesn't matter who you are. If you live in Beaverton, you belong here, right? I mean, I just want everyone to feel welcomed and to feel that they have a place here. And so the homeless crisis is something that we each have a part to play in. A huge reason why I am making the move from THPRD. My term ends this June 30th. And I'm running for city council is to work on housing. It's one of our biggest crises. And now we're just dealing with multiple crises. So I think we need a regional approach to the solution, and we need family shelter space, right? We need some interim places and we need permanent housing. And so having places that those kids can go where they maybe aren't safe at home to be sheltered is just so important to me. And so whether that's the city partnering even further with Home Plate, right? And invigorating resources there, there's just so much we can do. But I think a lot of the solutions come when we work together.
Thank you. And I'm really proud of you for running too.
Thank you.
As usual, I guess I'll hop in with a question. So you did mention this housing measure that or funding that you provided through THPRD, and I guess the fundamental question is that I have is, how is the Tualatin Hills Parks and Recreation District? How does its purview include housing?
Sure. So this is a little bit into the policy, but I'm going to give you the brief history of system development charges. And this is why I believe that THPRD is in the business of housing. And that is system development charges are charged by many of our overlapping, our water district, the city, THPRD, things like that. And when any new development goes in, residential or commercial, a system development charge is assessed. And that fee, say you layer them on, there's 3 or 4, at any given place, in our area. That fee alone, before you've bought the land, before you've done anything, can be between $30,000 and $60,000 per unit. And THPRD was the highest system development charge going into that pot. And so we heard from affordable housing developers that they were avoiding our park district. They did not want to build in our park district because they didn't want to have to pay our system development charge. And so we did a really long outreach. We did a study. We had all kinds of stakeholders. Staff did outreach. As individual board members, we did outreach and really tried to understand the issue and what would make the biggest impact. So we changed our methodology in a way that is relational to the size of the unit that's being built. So there's a more equitable distribution of those system development charges. And then the second thing we did is we are approving waivers for system development charges for affordable housing that's built in the district. So our board chose, we looked at, the Metro Affordable Housing Bond that was passed in 2018. It predicts a certain amount of units, right, that would be built within our district. So we looked at those projections and we looked at our budget and, what would the impact of this mean to our district if we made this type of change, excuse me. And we decided to waive at 100% the most affordable units, which are the 0 to 30% area median income. And then we're waiving at the 50% level, the 30 to 60% area median income. So also very affordable, but that 0 to 30 is like super affordable. And this would cover a portion of all of the affordable units that were anticipated to be built in the district under the Metro Housing Bond. And a huge thing for us on the board is that we shouldn't be a reason that someone can't afford to live in Beaverton. We have these beautiful, amazing services, right? Our incredible parks have been such a haven, and the trails for everyone during COVID. But if we're a reason that people can't afford to live in our district, then we're part of the problem. And so we looked at, what is kind of within our mission and our scope, and that's where we landed as a board. So we're not specifically building anything, but we're making it easier for people to build affordable housing in our district and technically incentivizing it, right? Because they could get this waiver. So there's other ways that you can also get waivers. For example, the Cedar Grove up at Cornell and Murray, they actually have a public plaza. And so their fees were waived because they put a public amenity at their property. So there's other creative ways like that we can really encourage affordable housing development in our area. And those types of solutions are the types that, like, when we start, each district does the thing that they can do, we start having the snowball effect, we can start having a bigger impact on solving the problem.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Other questions for our candidate? Yes, John Duggar.
If anyone else has one, I'll pass, but I just want to, because I talk a lot. But Ashley, can you talk a little bit about your climate plan? What should Beaverton be doing to better be able to respond to climate change?
Yeah. So I'm really happy to see that the city has started recruitment for the Climate Action Task Force, right? That the plan has been published for a couple of years. And I think that having that task force is a really meaningful way for us to hold ourselves accountable to that plan. I would like to see us maybe through that task force to kind of go through the plan a little more with a little more scrutiny and set some goals for ourselves that are a little more measurable. Some tangible goals, whether that's around, we want to see more green infrastructure, right? Whether there's incentives or even mandates for new development to incorporate certain types of, sustainable building technology. And I know you didn't ask me about the trees, but I actually think that we do need a policy in place that protects our old growth trees, makes sure that when we have new projects going in, we need to look at what is the impact to our trees. Our trees are fundamental for cleaning the air, right? And we know that the impact to our climate is a human-made impact. So it also means that we have the ability to reverse that. But our trees and our green, any place that we can have green space, it's so important to actually helping clean the air. So, those old trees are doing a lot more than those new trees are. So I want to make sure that we are, really intentional before we cut down a tree. At THPRD, anytime we have a project that's going to cut down a tree, we're asking those questions, right? Why is this one getting cut down? Does it have to be cut down? Is there any way around it, right? Because we know how important that is. So the task force is going to be super important. I would like to see us have a plan around the trees to keep the older growth trees in place. And then I also think that, I would like to see the city complete the electrification of its vehicle fleet as well, right? So that as a city, we're also doing the most we can to impact our effects on climate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom, you're muted.
Thank you. That's 2 minutes left for the candidates. So are there any other questions for the candidate this evening? No one?
It's all right. I'm going to put my email in the chat. So feel
right.
free to email me if you would like to get a hold of me or ask me other questions. And I encourage you to get your ballot in the mail soon or get it to a Dropbox. And a reminder, you don't need a stamp anymore to return your ballot by the mail. So that's really wonderful. And thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for joining us tonight. Well, thank you to both candidates. Yeah, it's a good thing that nobody voted yet because now you have more information. So fantastic. And better late than never, we will go ahead and turn things over to, I see Jean here, but not a Dan Turk.
Dan, Franziska, can you promote Dan? He's here as an attendee.
Oh, I didn't see that. Oh, there he is.
Here he is.
All right, I've been promoted. Let me see, make sure.
Dan, we can't see you. Yeah.
I know. There we go. There. All right. Tom, how much time do you want us to take all together here?
We've got time. I mean, I know some of the material that you're going over, and I think we've got time for all of it. We may need to curtail some discussion, but I know that we've got lots of ways to get feedback to you guys. Take as much time as you like, I'd say, because your presentation's what, 15?
We were planning on making it about 15 and then just 15 discussion, but I think I'll make it 10. I'll try to make it 10.
Sure.
Okay.
Let me point out the project that he's speaking about. Two of the members of the community the community committee are sitting on the board. So if you want a more direct line to Jean and Daniel about the loop, then you can contact either.
As well as more materials. You know, they are on the Bureau website. We're making a presentation to Bureau tomorrow as well. So we have a more detailed report with this information. Thank you guys for listening to us and chatting with us on what's a very busy night for you guys. First thing I want to say is neither Jean and I are running for office. So you know, don't just mistakenly write us in. I'm not sure that we would want to have that capacity. Thank you for having us. We're here to talk to you about the Beaverton Downtown Loop project. Last time we spoke to you guys was before we had even started with the planning process. So we're back here to update you on how the planning process is going and to get you some specific feedback. We want to give you an update of community engagement activities that we've been working on, and then a preview of some upcoming ones. Jean's going to give you a very brief update on project funding. And then the bulk of this is to share some findings from the inventory of existing conditions, opportunities and constraints, and then to get your input. Go ahead, Jean. So the loop, very quickly, along Hall and Watson north-south to connect Old Town to Beaverton Central, reimagining what the streets look and function like. And have it be welcoming to everybody and try to preserve the value that we already have in our downtown. We are in the planning phase. The result of that planning phase will be a plan to move forward with that'll give us a really good idea of what our solution will be. And at that point, we would move into design of the infrastructure part. Go ahead, Jean. The schedule is we hope to have a plan adopted in late September by the City Council, and we'd like that plan as good and as supported as possible. And you know, we welcome your ideas and you know, your support along the way, and we plan on coming back at least one more time to talk to you guys in this process. Go ahead, Jean. Community engagement, what we've been doing so far, and this gives me a great chance to shout out to Franziska, who works with you guys. She's been wonderful in helping us do the details and the planning of these this community engagement strategy and plan, which has been just opening up at this point. We have a website. We have a notify me email where we update people about what's going on and opportunities to participate. Please check us out. We formed a community advisory committee, 23 members, charged with giving us local knowledge. We worked very hard in reaching out to different groups to try to get a good diversity in terms of where people live, in terms of what people's background is, in terms of how old they are, and they've been doing a really good job of giving us feedback at every step of the way so far. The next two activities that we're doing right now, we have some in-depth interviews where we're really trying to capture people that aren't normally part of the community engagement process and just sit down with them and get some really good in-depth understanding of their lived experience with respect to the loop. And that's been very insightful for us so far, and we expect more of it. Just started May 1st and will end May 17th. This is an opportunity for anyone to participate. We set up some A-frames in 4 different areas along the loop, Hall and Watson downtown. Bring your smartphone, scan a QR code. It'll ask you some questions about what you feel about where you are, good, not so good, your impressions, ideas, and we're looking forward to getting some good feedback that way as well. Next slide, Gene. This is a list of the people that are members of the Community Advisory Board. We have downtown business owners. We have Tom Drain. We've been very happy with people that own businesses downtown, people that live downtown, people that don't live downtown. It's just been a very nice group. Next slide, Gene. Here's one of the A-frames right on Watson and Farmington. I hope it's still up there. I'll check tomorrow. Oh yes, thank you, Tom. Thanks for reminding me, Rachel, as well. I saw you there. Thank you for you're a very valued member of the CAC as well. Next slide, please, Gene. Things that are coming up. Once we get feedback from you and other people, we're going to go back and come up with some design alternatives, and then come right back and ask people what they think of them in various different ways through the CAC, through meetings such as this. But two other ways. We'll have a survey similar to the one with the community mapping on cell phones, where we'll get some feedback from anyone who'd like to participate, and then we'll have a big virtual open house live. This will be, I believe it'll be at the end of July, where we'll be presenting and trying to take advantage of what we can do virtually to make up for the fact that we just can't all do it in the same room together. Next slide, Gene. Oh yeah, all right. So Jean will talk to you a little bit about the work that she's been doing, the work that she's been doing to try to find a good source of federal funding for to begin the Loop project. Go ahead, Jean.
Great, thanks, Dan. So just a real brief update, and you may have heard news of this in the news, or if you follow City Council, but you're hearing news from DC about infrastructure, right? There's lots of talk about more money becoming available. One piece of that is we are due for Congress to reauthorize the Surface Transportation Bill, which is the legislation that provides transportation funding for projects all across the country. This time around, members of Congress are allowed to submit requests for projects. So the city submitted a request to Congresswoman Bonamici to build what we're going to call sort of the first phase of the Loop project. We don't know yet what that project is because we're still not even done with the planning process. But we put in a request through here for $4 million. There are some funds that have been set aside within the Beaverton Urban Redevelopment Agency that will also serve as our project funding in the form of like a local contribution, a match. It's a really competitive process. There's going to be a lot of requests that don't receive funding. The legislation's making its way through Congress. It may be a while, and who knows how fast things will move in DC. This is something that Mayor Beatty has been leading our federal our federal legislative agenda. She's been very actively working on this and talking with the Congresswoman. As I said, City Council endorsed this request. So we may actually be able to move forward with a project at some point in the near future to build the loop. So I'll hand it back to Dan.
Thanks, Jean. Next slide, please. So this is the bulk of what we'd like to present. There is a report that goes into a lot of detail with respect to these different aspects of the existing conditions and opportunities constraints. We welcome you to access that. You can find that on the Bureau website. It's part of the agenda bill that we put together and exhibits for that. So please, if you have more time, take a look and feel free to contact me anytime with feedback. Next slide, please, Jean. So we'd like to just highlight a few areas of information that we provided in that report. Some key areas that perhaps we'd like more feedback from you guys in terms of the existing conditions. A key part of existing conditions that we mapped is, what type of frontage is there along Hall and Watson? There's active frontage that, a lot of interesting things for pedestrians, people to go by. And then, such as A and B. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have these like F at the lower right, where it's basically a blank wall and no sidewalk. That is not as supportive for pedestrians, and neither is sort of the vacant lot. That's E there at Watson between 3rd and 4th. So next slide, Jean. We mapped the locations of these areas up and down the loop. So as you can see, there is a good mix there. Some areas where there's some good active frontage like Old Town, and then some areas where it could be better like Hall and up there by the auto dealerships. Next slide, please, Jean. Another area we'd like to highlight for you guys is stormwater. The loop up and down Hall and Watson serves a critical function of draining stormwater from south to north onto Beaverton Creek, and that's something that we need to keep in mind with whatever we do as a road project. And to make things more challenging, there are new clean water services criteria that we need to meet with any new project that we're keenly aware of, and making that an intrinsic part of the infrastructure solution for this roadway. Next slide. And I think this, you can go, Jean, this is just highlighting. Another area we'd like to highlight, the tree canopy downtown. This is a first stage mapping of where we do have a good tree canopy and where there are gaps. The city has a lot of resources, people working in different areas, and with the city arborist, we're putting together a more detailed inventory of what types of trees, the health of those trees in the specific locations. And trees can serve a very important function of just making it an aesthetically nice place and welcoming place to be. Their location relative to where the sidewalks are is an important existing condition to look at in terms of being able to make it a more interesting place to be. And ideally, a place where there's good accessibility going past a tree relative to its location with the pavement and the sidewalk. You can see again, there's a sharp contrast between A, for example, where you have a nice tree canopy, or D, where you have the city with some nice bigger trees, and E and F, which are not very far away, where you really you don't have anything at all, and there's a lot of room for improvement. Next slide, please, Jean. And I think we can move on past this. There's always a challenge. One of the other areas we're mapping is very importantly the right-of-way, the area within which the city has jurisdiction and can work at the division of space between the transportation modes and how they interact. The takeaway from this slide is there's some pinch points. Hall, south of Canyon, for example, where there's significantly less lateral space, and that has implications in terms of what we can do and space available for sidewalks or other things. Next slide, please. Like to highlight, this project is nothing but something, looking at improving pedestrian facilities. So we went out there and mapped what was out there, and like everything else, there's a plethora of different arrangements. Anything from what we have here near City Hall at Watson, west of the Round of, I think that's 17 feet. Our traffic engineer assured us that's the widest sidewalk in Beaverton. So if you want to take a look at the widest sidewalk, it's right there. And we have, again, places where there's a gap in the sidewalk, such as Watson, or where we have sidewalks just left of there, where there's just a range of things in the way where it really it prevents that sidewalk from functioning for anybody, yet alone someone who needs extra space to be able to get by. Next line, please, or next slide, please. So when we were mapping, we looked at the concept of the pedestrian through zone, which is basically, in short, just the part of the sidewalk that people can use for going back and forth, as opposed to sitting down near the building or some furniture or trees between the sidewalk and the pavement. Next slide, Gene. So we went up and down Hall and Watson and mapped out the width of the pedestrian through zone. There are some places where you have some quite healthy. This is the northern part. Some gaps, notably south of Milliken on Watson. This is the through zone here in the middle. The red is where you see less than 5 feet. Please, the next slide, Gene, to the southern part. You can see where the red striping is. That's where there's some impediments or some places that are kind of limiting or pinching the area of the sidewalk where you can get through. So we wanted to make sure that we understood what was out there. Go ahead, Gene. With respect to other modes of transportation, we went out there and mapped the bicycle system, where there are bike lanes, where there aren't bike lanes, how those bike lanes connect to regional facilities to really have their impact. Fifth Street is a nice east-west facility, the Crescent Connection Trail, and yeah, Milliken Way as well in the future will be more and more a bicycle facility. Next slide, Gene. And last but not least, transit. We're blessed in the Loop area to have the 76 route going up and down both Hall and Watson and connecting to the Max line. So it's good to know what's there, how we can leverage that to improve accessibility, both in terms of the service being provided, but also the facilities that are on the side of the street, bus stops that serve the transit. Next slide, please. In terms of the vehicular system, we went out there and mapped the number of lanes and the configuration of lanes up and down Hall and Watson. Again, there's various different arrangements. Mainly to the southern part, it tends to be 2 lanes, one way and the other way. Some areas such as Hall, north of Canyon, you have 3 lanes going down that direction. And then other areas where you see 3 lanes tend to be where there's they're turn lanes. Next slide. We started mapping the crash data and most importantly, crash data with respect to pedestrians and bicycles, which we have on the next slide, to try to get an understanding of what's going on there. We want a facility or an environment where pedestrians feel safe and are safe. So, looking at areas where there were crashes involving peds and bikes are very important. You can see good amount of them have to do with those intersections with Canyon and Farmington. Next slide, please, Gene. In terms of main pedestrian barriers, we have 4 intersections, 2 with Canyon, 2 with Farmington, where, this is a major impediment from going north to south, south to north. And, it's important to know what's there and to try to start scoping out how that can be improved and people can be more apt to take that trip walking. Next slide, please, Gene. And again, it isn't just about travel time, it's also about safety. Safety is about the geometry. You can look here at the intersection between Watson and Farmington, and man, there's just a lot of complexity there at different levels. And we're looking at ways of improving that safety in different ways to make it a more pleasant environment to just be, yet alone move as a pedestrian. Next slide. An important part of the solution or the existing conditions is not just the arrangement of lanes, but the speed limits. And this is an area where the city's already been moving forward towards lowering those speed limits up and down Hall and Watson, all to 20 miles per hour. There's certainly a good amount of room for doing some more traffic calming. It's not just a challenge crossing some of those major intersections up and down Hall and Watson, but just crossing Hall and Watson themselves. So, we're looking at some solutions to make it, the street function as one pedestrian facility as opposed to just 2 separated sidewalks. Next slide, please, Gene. So those are the things that we'd like to highlight. We'd like to spend the time that's available listening to you guys. Go ahead to the next slide, please, Gene. We'd like to get your input. This is an important part of our process here, important step. We'd like to use your input in coming up with some good design alternatives, but also more importantly, even coming up with ways of evaluating those alternatives. So, what do you consider the assets out there on the streetscape in the loop up and down Hall and Watson? What needs to be changed? If you're thinking about changing it, what would be challenges that would be confronted? And then, of course, is there anything that we missed, both in terms of things, but also just perspectives? Gene and I would find it very valuable to get your input on that. So thank you for your patience with our presentation, and please, any input that you'd like to give us now or in the future about this is very welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. We'll just go run into it really quick. John?
Yeah, number one, thanks for this. This is a lot of work. I really appreciate it. A big question, both for short-term and long-term. Number one, I have an Apple Watch, and I just learned on average, I walk 61 miles, the vast majority per month. The vast majority of those have been in downtown Beaverton. My number one frustration is pedestrian lights. I have to press the button everywhere in our preeminent pedestrian district. That is absurd to me. You don't do that in downtown Portland. You don't do that in downtown Gresham. You don't do that in downtown anywhere. I cannot tell you how many times I walk up to an intersection and I just barely missed the light. And now I have to wait another 2, 3, 4 minute cycle. So that's insanely frustrating. And that's something, I would hope that we need to fix long-term, but that could be a quick victory. I look at things as an incentive structure. If you make it hard to walk, you're not going to get, people walking. Same with biking, right? Like I saw your slide, and I bike a lot too. Some of those connections they're downright scary. Like the bike lane will just end, and I think to myself every time I do it, if a car lane just ended, or if it became a dirt road, people would be up in arms. And I feel like I should be up in arms now. Like it's been really frustrating. But number one, thank you for the good work. Number two, can we get a short-term solution for pedestrian lights? And number three, at least tell me we're going to do that long-term. Thank you so much.
Thanks, John. I really appreciate your energy and your forcefulness. These are important things. We do need to incentivize we need it to get more people walking, more people biking. It needs to be, we need to have the infrastructure there. And, in terms of, what we're trying to do overall is we're really trying to transition the area into being a real downtown, a place where these modes are prioritized. And, I think you put it very aptly, and I wrote it down. This is not, if you're pressing something to cross the street, it's almost like you're knocking on someone's door, just asking to come in. It's just in your mind. It's like, this isn't built primarily for me. So there's an important message there. Short-term, long-term, it's a hard thing to look at. It is definitely something where, that is the trend. Gene, I don't know if you wanted to add anything about the intersection. Certainly with respect to the bike lanes that drop off, that's something that is a big priority. And perhaps a key feature of what we're looking at is really having some coherent and continuous bike lanes, and maybe even improve from what they are now as a way of unifying the area with another transportation mode. Do you have anything to add, Gene? Sorry.
No, other than I hear your frustration on the pedestrian push buttons. I'll just, for tonight, I'll say it's complicated, but I hear you on that. So there's a lot of technology, and it's a technology and a timing sort of piece. It's a dual thing, but something we're definitely interested in exploring more through this process. So.
Yeah, one final point about that too, like in the beginning of the pandemic, I didn't want to push the buttons. I didn't know if it would make me sick. Like, I mean, there are practical considerations here too that other cities have taken into account. So like it's a multifaceted, complicated issue. I really appreciate you guys looking into it. It's really important.
Thanks, John. When you first said 61 miles, I thought that you were going to say that you do that in a day. And then I was like, man, this guy must be the expert in downtown Beaverton if he's walking that much up and down it.
No, we will. It's so funny. Like, there's a real community out on the streets, and it has changed noticeably in the last couple of years. So where we're heading is the right direction. I see people all the time, mostly because of the dog, right? But it's real and it's changing, and I think we got to get ahead of that.
So you're talking about, John, just downtown, people that you see up and down Hall and Watson?
Exactly, and people gathering around, especially in that first, second street corridor between this, where you have all the restaurant row and places like that. Go there on a Friday night if you don't believe me. It is crazy, and then people go walk across to Canyon to the food carts, just out, and it feels very different than it did even 2 or 3 years ago, in a good way.
That's great to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
Agreed. Hold on a second. So Jolene, you had a question?
Yeah. One of the things that I didn't see on your presentation was about overhead lines, and you talked about wastewater and how that was going to be addressed, but is there any talk about putting the lines underground? Because I can say some of those skinny sidewalks, a big barrier are those telephone poles.
Yeah, thank you, Jolene. Gene, I need your help on this one.
Sure. So Hall and Watson through downtown, the utilities are undergrounded. It was done at some point in the past, which is great. So where you do see poles kind of close, maybe to the corners, are because they're on the streets crossing Hall and Watson. So at this point, we're not anticipating that the project will need to underground any of those utilities. If there are conditions that exist when we really start to get into design that warrant that, we'll be looking for that. But at this point, the couplet is pretty well set up that we don't have to think too much about that. But once we really dive into design, we'll learn more. But the city does have an undergrounding policy. And that would be something that we would, be looking at if we still had, power poles down the street.
So basically, Farmington and Canyon, we just have to wait for other powers that be.
Yeah, powers that be, a project that, is big enough to trigger our undergrounding policy. So, yeah. A good question.
Thank you.
Kate, and then Kevin.
Beat you, Kevin. I run a parade, and when I asked about crossing Farmington, I was literally laughed at. They were like, there's just no way your parade will ever be able to cross Farmington because of the trains and because you lack because it's ODOT and because there's just not the pedestrian support around it. It seems to me I do the Pride Parade in Beaverton, but I know that there's the city has a parade and there's other things, and part of the loop would be to bring, I mean, what a terrific thing for a parade ground. How do you get around the trains and across the freeway?
Yeah, Kate, it's really nice talking with you guys, the things that you're bringing up. I mean, that you're absolutely right. That's, it's not just, how the loop would function regularly, but, it should be able to provide a function, for a parade or any other event, using the street temporarily. Gene, I don't know if you can address that. I mean, other than the jurisdictional challenge and, with rail lines, what, do you have anything to add, Gene?
I don't, at least not at this point. I think we still have to get further along with our project and our design and really understand, like, what does it mean? I know parades usually march in streets and pedestrians go and bikes, pedestrians go on sidewalks, but I think I like to use this as an opportunity to kind of revisit that. I just don't know enough about all the permissions around the parade permit itself. So,
we run cars down the road and then people line the streets on the sidewalk to watch and cheer and stuff. And it was just interesting because, like I said, I was laughed at when I said, hey, I'd love to go down to City Hall, like, or past the food carts or something like that. And they said, never, not, you hold your breath. Right. So,
well, anyway. There are certainly many cities that have parades. So I don't feel that it was justified to laugh at you. That doesn't seem like a crazy request at all. And, that allows me to highlight the fact that, we're not just, when we're looking at the loop, we're not just looking at the infrastructure, we're also looking at, how the infrastructure is used and, the activities, temporary activities or anything to, to bring life to the area. And, that sounds like a great activity. So yeah, we'll make a note of it and see what we can do.
Very good. Okay, so we have questions from Kevin and then Quinn, and then I think unless there's anything pressing after that, we will call that so that folks can get on with their evening. But Kevin?
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Dan and Jean, this presentation was even more detailed than some of the stuff I've seen in the past, and I really like and appreciate the work that you all put into it so far. Just a few things that I noticed. One of the narrowest portions of the road was 53 feet wide near the bike gallery location on Hall and Canyon. And yet that part of the road has 3 lanes of traffic. So just
Kevin, it's before that, it's just south of Canyon. So, okay. So that's one of the reasons why that becomes the Indianapolis 500, because then it opens up to 3 lanes and downhill, and that's where people kind of try to make up for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So my point here is that we've got very wide roads, and if we want to make any improvements to biking or walking, there are going to have to be trade-offs. And my fear or my concern is that people might not be ready to hear that until it's sprung on them too late. And it's like, oh crap, you're taking away my car space. I didn't know this was what it would be about, kind of thing. And I know nothing's finalized yet, but being realistic, if this is going to be a bold and impactful project, that would likely be an outcome of it. And then a second point that I want to point out, just in favor of bike advocacy, the bike lanes that are on Watson Hall are in the door zone of the parked cars. And that is the most dangerous place for a biker to be. And like my personal perspective that I want to push for is that if our streets aren't safe for our kids to be out on, then they're not safe enough. So as much protective infrastructure we can push for, like I really want to advocate for that.
Thank you, Kevin. Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. It's not just a matter of having a bike lane. You know, you want a bike lane that is safe and comfortable, and you know, also as a theme for what we're talking about, not just with bikes, but with pedestrians. You know, we'd like to be designing this not just for people that are young and able that walk 61 miles a day, but you know, people that have children and you know, that have other things that they're worried about as well when they're walking. You know, you highlighted about trade-offs and the timing of sort of springing things on people. Hopefully, you know, as part of this 10-month-long planning process, we're able to, you know, begin talking about some of these trade-offs and then illuminating these trade-offs when we're looking at design alternatives. You know, at least qualitatively, we will be during this planning process talking about, you know, the impacts of, you know, taking away capacity from certain modes and allowing more space for others. Some of these things may need bear further analysis quantitatively to understand, you know, the impacts in a wider area. You know, I'd like to think that, you know, trade-offs is not a bad thing because it, you know, it helps you identify and make sure that, you know, if you're giving something up, that you're getting something back that is of greater value, you know. So that's, it's a good part of the process to highlight that.
Yeah. All that said, I think we're exactly where we need to be at this point, and I'm really impressed with the work that's put into it, and I'm excited to see the next steps and partner in the next steps.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah.
All right, so Quinn?
It was answered, so I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Are you sure? Did you have any follow-ups or anything that you wanted to have addressed?
Any follow-ups? No, just I guess the one question I have is like, was something like potentially this impactful, like these things take a while, which is totally understandable, and I think we want them to, because big decisions have to be made. But we also know that there's a lot of change happening in downtown while this planning is happening. So I'm just curious to know, like, in addition to the planning that is happening around the loop, if the committee is also involved in the separate evolution of the city and, or sorry, of the loop area and of the businesses that are, for example, improving, and if that's also part of the process. And I ask because is it possible for enhancements to be happening that might be contradictory to the philosophy of the loop? And if so, how does the loop stay involved with kind of that parallel effort that's happening with the city?
That's a good question. You know, I'd like to say, you know, this has to do a lot with coordination. And you know, I'm relatively new to the city and to Beaverton, but I've been very impressed. You know, there are two levels or avenues of coordination that we're really taking advantage of. One is within the city here and our colleagues. You know, we have colleagues that work in development. We have colleagues that are working on a parking plan, for example. We have colleagues that are working on you know, the zoning downtown and following through on that. So we're keeping in constant contact with them, and we have a technical advisory committee where we're meeting with them on a regular basis to be able to coordinate. You know, another one, for example, is downtown equity strategy that's being developed. You know, we're coordinating with them, and you know, their goal is to make sure that anything that's done downtown is looked upon adequately and well, I should say, through an equity lens. So, you know, we have a lot of internal stakeholders that will keep us honest, but also help us design a better project. The other avenue is externally, through the CAC. We have a lot of business owners, some developers as well, on top of regular people. And that's a good way to keep that coordination as well. So we feel that we have a lot of good avenues to get that feedback, and it is a longer process. And to be honest, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on downtown, and there's both privately and publicly. And we have a slide which is not one of my favorites, but this is basically it with everything that's gone on and everything that will go on. We can complement each other very well. But you brought up a very good concern.
Fantastic. And for real, this will be the last question. We can all move on for the evening. I know it's been a long day for you and Jean. The First Street Dining Commons is a project that was very dear to this NAC. It was a partnership with the business community and the city. It's, as far as I know, still open-ended but temporary. Has there been, I know it's been brought up in regards to the Loop project, but has there been any other formal discussion about including that space as part of the character of the Loop?
Jean, can you take this one?
Yeah. I would say it's the First Street Dining Commons has really intrigued a lot of people, like even on the design team, right? I think a lot of people are just really appreciative that we've created that space. It's not sort of formally part of our scope of the Loop, but it almost wants to be this like appendage that gets recognized. It's other people within the community development department that Dan and I work with who have been working on that, on keeping that set up and in place, working with people like Kevin and other folks, the businesses that are directly adjacent. So I would say kind of hold that thought. You love the First Street Dining Commons, great. We haven't gotten to a place yet where we're like, here's the thing, but we know there's a lot of support for it and that people would like to see it continue. And my answer is, I don't know yet what might come of that, but you're not the first person to ask. You're not the first person to bring it up. So, keep it out there.
And that's totally fair. I think it's nice to get some rather than just from Megan or some of the other people that are directly involved in that project to see what the city's what they're thinking about it in terms of the other concepts that are going out, whether it be the downtown design project or the Loop or things like that. So it's always reassuring to know that it's not just an afterthought, that it's being included, and it's even better that it's generating some additional interest from even the design team. So I got to say, the Walker Macy folks that we've had to deal with the design that Dan and Jean are dealing with they're great. They've got great ideas. They're very open to the feedback that's been presented to them. So kudos on the private partnership as well. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us for that. We do have one last agenda item from the Sustainability Subcommittee that Rachel, John, I don't know if you want to go over that really quickly right now, and then we'll adjourn immediately after. And I thank everyone for sticking with us the extra time. I think we've had a really interesting meeting.
Thank you, guys. And I want to thank you for not grilling Jean and I with the plethora of questions that you asked the candidates, because I could not have handled those myself.
That's fair. You had to go through your act, so.
All right. Yeah, I can jump into the Sustainability Subcommittee. So what we're going to be going over is a plan and a memorandum of understanding between the Highland NAC, our own NAC, and THPRD that's being proposed in order to plant some more trees at Schiffler Park. And I will share my screen. Okay. All right, can everyone see the map of Schiffler Park?
Yes.
All right. So along here is Erickson. This is the playground structures at Schiffler. And so what this MOU is doing is, this memorandum of understanding is to get the two NACs, Highland and our NAC, as well as THPRD, to agree to this project to plant some more trees. Reggie Frumkin from Highland NAC has been really involved with putting all of this together, so thank you to him. And this shows where the current trees are proposed to go. So a few more street trees here, some more trees around here, and some additional shade around the playground over here, as well as by the entrance. And I believe this one was proposed because a tree was taken down there, and so we'd like to replace it. So the goal for this is to review, this is the appendix or attachment to the MOU, but the goal for this is to just go through this memorandum of understanding really quick. And if people feel comfortable, we would like to vote on authorizing myself to sign on behalf of the NAC. What will happen after this meeting will be, we'll review it, this NAC will review it right now. Then it will, any edits will go to the Highland NAC, they will review, propose any edits, and then it has one more final review to go through through THPRD. So far, this has been reviewed by Gary Keck, who is the design and development manager, and it just has to go through his director's review. So we can walk through this hopefully pretty quickly here. So this is just stating that this is between our three entities, the two NACs, THPRD, and it clarifies the roles that the NACs and THPRD has. Probably the most interesting part for this NAC will be the Central Beaverton's board and sustainability subcommittee's responsibilities, which will be reviewing and approving major decisions before they are sent to THPRD or the City of Beaverton, submitting an application for a city neighborhood matching grant, and that will happen, assuming all parties agree, that will probably happen at the next NAC meeting. Conducting outreach to get neighbors and volunteers aware of this project and helping out. Helping maintain the trees while they are still growing. So probably for the next, I think it's 2 years, covering the cost of tree acquisition, which will come, I think the spreadsheet, the estimate is about $1,500. Monitoring tree trunk protections, protective fencing and tree stakes, and replacing when necessary if they are vandalized or removed. And then what the Highland NAC is committing to is a lot of support and expertise. So providing our NAC with consulting and direct assistance on matching grants, tree selections, event coordination, follow-up maintenance, coordinating with THPRD, providing event supplies like canopies and tables, coordinating with us to secure water sources. At this point, THPRD does not have a source of water that we can use at this point, so we will probably be reaching out to neighbors to see if we can use their water. This is something Reggie has done in the past with other park projects.
On that note, just real quick,
Yeah.
I'm on Erickson as well, but right across the park there, I've got a contact we will very likely be able to use the water from.
Perfect, that's wonderful. Providing emergency, the HNAC will also provide emergency maintenance if needed, and monitoring tree trunk protectors and tree stakes, and helping us assess whether they are needed. And what THPRD will do is leave any supportive stakes in the ground, allow us to do maintenance such as water, weeding, and other maintenance that comes up, allowing us to provide pruning for qualified volunteers, leaving on the tree trunk protectors, being mindful of soil compaction during park maintenance, and allowing us to replace any trees that need help. We saw the planting plan, and then, so this goes over some reporting requirements, such as the final quantity of trees and their locations and species will be sent to THPRD. Project expenses, in-kind donations, and volunteer hours are recorded, and we already have a spreadsheet of the expenses so far. And volunteers will record any individual hours spent maintaining trees to the park. And then this goes over time frame. So this is right now Q2 2021. So finalizing the plan for tree species, locations, and this memorandum. Submitting the neighborhood matching grant to the city, which will probably happen next month. Later in the fall, we'll be determining an event date. Winter, we'll be planning the event, conducting outreach. Next winter, so Q1 2022, will be the actual planting event, and then submitting the matching grant reimbursement. And then throughout 2022 and 2023 will be maintenance of trees, basically. So that is the MOU. I can go over any questions or edits that people want to make, and then I would like to, I don't know actually the right way to propose this, but the question will be whether I will be authorized to sign on behalf of the board to sign this MOU. So I guess I'll ask, does anyone have any questions or concerns about this plan?
No questions or concerns, just as a secondary, this has been vetted by the entire subcommittee. Highland NAC is also reviewing this as well. THPRD, as she alluded to, is reviewing this. So this is really thorough. Like we've gone over this multiple times. So just kind of need a high level.
Yeah, I don't think that there's, I think the subcommittee is empowered and entrusted in order to write and vet this. And I don't see, I mean, if it's good with you guys and with Highland as a check, that's just even better in terms of coordination.
So are you guys good if I make the motion to accept the MOU as written and authorize board member Rachel to sign on our behalf?
Yes, I'm okay with that.
So is that a second that I hear from you?
I'll second
Okay,
that.
fantastic. There's a motion on the floor to approve the MOU between Highland NAC and THPRD as written and submitted, with board member at large Rachel Phillip signing on behalf of the NAC of that memorandum. All those in favor of this motion, please respond yay or nay, or otherwise indicate thumbs up or thumbs down. The motion passes, I believe, unanimously. So yes, please sign and get that, and then we can start talking about what the event's going to look like and what the outreach is going to look like soon. Part of that. So for the outreach, were you including the other community support, not just volunteer? So what's the outreach looking like? Is it just public awareness? Hey, we're the NAC and we're planting some trees. Is it, hey, we're the NAC and we're planting some trees and we need your help?
I think it will be the latter.
Okay.
We would love to get people involved, and especially with like watering, and like give people a sense of, hey, I was a part of planting these trees at this park that I go to all the time.
Yeah, fantastic. Because I know at least one of the homeowners that is very close to the northeast part of the park.
Yeah, the other nice thing about this, Tom, is both our NAC and Highland now has a template that will have been vetted by all of us and THPRD
Good.
So this will be accelerated in the future. So we've kind of taken that approach too. So this, not only is this good, this is a template going forward that we haven't had.
In your communications with THPRD, has you gotten any more pushback, or I know that we're still in the, as Reggie had pointed out, the not usually since it's a fairly newly renovated park, and they were not ready to re-examine the tree canopy there.
Yeah.
Has this been widely accepted? I mean, I know that I think that there are some other parts of the way that the park infrastructure has been changed that seem.
Yeah, this doesn't match the long-term plan, but they've been at least not fighting us.
Okay.
Because I think they recognize that not only what we've initially proposed with the 12 trees, but we've told them we're coming back for more, and they kind of recognize that there's a need in that park for a lot of additional trees, particularly on the dog park side too.
Right.
So this is kind of our trial run with them.
Okay.
Yeah. At the last meeting we had with THPRD, I wasn't involved with the earlier stages, but this one, things seemed pretty well vetted, and people were excited to be moving forward.
Fantastic. That's great. Okay. It is now very late. I thank all of you for staying so long, especially Franziska. Jerome, thank you for hanging with us till the end, as well as Jolene. Are there, just real quick, any community announcements, questions, anything that?
I had something real quick about the election.
Okay.
If you are like me and haven't opened your ballot yet, you will find that there are 5 names on the ballot for city council and 3 have withdrawn. So the 2 we heard from today are the ones who are actively running. And because of our new charter, one of them needs to get 50% plus 1 of the vote to be city council. If not, then there's a runoff in November, just so people are understanding how this election is working.
That is a fantastic reminder to us all. Thank you very much, Jolene. Great. Well, with that in mind, 35 minutes late, we're adjourned. So,
thanks everyone.
Good night.